All right, so here we are again. Georgia has opened up roughly a couple of days ago. The nation is watching us to see if it actually plays out well. We are hoping it does.
Second wave.
But I think a lot of people are just kind of interested on how it kind of played out here at AFI. So I said in another conversation where I was headed to Dallas. I had a conference, and basically I got halfway there. The speaker canceled, the hotel was canceling reservations, and then they just totally pulled the plug on the conference altogether. So that was kind of my outbreak that, wow, this is starting to get serious. So, I mean, we knew it was happening in January and early February, China. We were hearing their cases, and we were like, oh, okay, well, that's over there.
Right,
that's
right,
China, so we're
right.
okay. And then it hit Seattle.
Italy,
then,
you can't forget Europe
Oh,
because
yeah,
it
Europe-
went that wave too.
Europe started getting their little
Yeah.
dabbles. And then when it finally hit the States, Seattle is kind of where it came in. And what was your take on it as it kind of started happening?
At first, I thought it was a big joke. Like
the flu.
I
I
didn't
ain't
take,
worried
I
about it.
didn't take it as serious when I first heard about it,
Yeah.
and even when it kind of hit Seattle, and I can tell you when I got ticked off about it is when my sports got canceled. I was like, oh man, no basketball games, no football, no baseball, no golf, no anything.
Think about how much money is in NASCAR, NBA, all these
MLB,
other organizations. When those started shutting down, I was like, that's never happened.
Before
I mean,
ever.
You're talking billion-dollar industries.
Ever.
When they're shutting that down, I was like, oh, this is for real.
Yeah, that's when I really started to, and then they shut down the barbershops, and it was like it seemed as if, to me, if maybe we had just said, hey, 2 weeks, everybody just take 2 weeks off, sit at home, but realistically, that can't happen.
Yeah.
You still have people with underlying health issues. You still have people who have to get back and forth that are part of when they say essential.
Yeah.
It's like some things just, the things to stay open 365, the police department, the fire department. I mean, so you can't just say 2 weeks.
Well, the whole essential side. So, I mean, it was like, doctors, first responders,
Right.
all of that. Okay, that made sense. And then they were like, well, the food supply has to stay open. Okay,
Exactly.
That makes sense,
Exactly.
Right? But there was so many other industries that fell into the essential side, like auto parts. Agriculture.
Of course.
Tractor supplies. I mean, all of these infrastructure things that's required for just someone to do the gas stations. I was like, wow, you're telling me that the 19-year-old behind the register of racetrack is an essential worker, right? So, I mean, all these played out. And then we got pulled into it, on the fragrance side. It's like, is that really an essential? Well, it's part of a fragrance.
Right.
But any part that becomes an essential product, labels, containers, delivery drivers. I mean, all of this stuff was essential. So, I was surprised that probably a third of the nation was still considered essential.
When you think of it like, even when you go to the grocery store and
The
when
bagger.
when I walked in and I didn't see any water, and, specifically going to the grocery store to get water,
Yeah.
and it's just this big void right there where the water is, and it's like, oh, this is real. Like,
Oh, yeah.
this could potentially have that. I mean, and if you really don't think about it, because it's so automatic where you just go to the store, I
It's
go
there,
get what I want.
I grab it.
But then you think if the truck driver can't get out there, the bottling plant
And
is
it's supply and
closed.
demand. If everybody goes
right.
to one place at the same time, there's nothing left. They pillage
Right.
it, right? And then you're telling people, hey, you're probably going to stay at home for 3 to 4 weeks. So now instead of people doing their weekly grocery shopping, they're doing 4 weeks
Weeks
worth
of
of grocery
right,
shopping.
right.
If they have the money, which a lot of people don't. So now you got people with money that bought a month's supply, the one that's feed to mouth,
Yep,
they
right.
go there for their 1 day supply and they ain't got nothing, I mean, it was.
It makes you think, and it makes you think like, okay, are you really prepared if I've always said one day the lights got to shut off.
Yeah.
Irregardless of the fact every good thing comes to it. Now I hope never in my lifetime,
Right.
my kids' lifetime, but at one point in time it has to happen. And you look and see like who's really prepared.
Right.
And are you really prepared? You know, and it's like
You're definitely going to run out of toilet paper.
use the 3 shells like in Demolition Man.
Demolition Man.
How did that work?
Yeah.
But you know, it's like, but you really don't never think about these things, and it did actually make you think.
Yeah.
To say, hey, you know what if this happened? You know, and then that turns into safety.
Yeah.
You're thinking about your family.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because what if it did shut down?
What's your priorities? Yeah.
Exactly. You know, and you really, you know, you're like, hey, I want to go with the flow. You know, no one wants to sit in the house for 2 weeks, but when you're getting all types of information from every outlet and it's different.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this
Well,
show was telling you
the
this.
flood of information that came off of the news channels, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, 50% of that was bad information.
Right,
It was like,
right.
we're all going to die. Like, you have 2 weeks, get your will. You know what I mean? And then, you know, the doctors are coming out and they're saying one thing, and then the ER nurses and practitioners are coming out saying it's not that bad.
Yeah.
And then you got people wearing masks, not wearing masks. You got some people doing hygiene, not doing hygiene. I mean,
yeah.
so to me, though, you have to look at it as your personal responsibility, right? To make sure that you're keeping yourself safe, you're wearing the right protective equipment. You know, I'm not going to go out there and not wear gloves and touch something that's hot.
Right, of course.
So if I know I'm going to touch something that might be infected with a virus, well, it's my responsibility to use hand sanitizer, go wash my hands.
Or
Right?
just don't touch it.
Or don't go out there anyways, right? Yeah, exactly.
right.
But I mean, you know, I was at the store the other day, and 90% of the stores in mask, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, here's this mom with like 4 kids, and the 4 kids are in mask, and she's
doesn't
not in a
have
mask.
one, right.
And I'm sitting there thinking, well, you're not going back to the same house. You're not going to, you know.
Isn't
you
that
have-
backwards?
you have
Like,
to
yeah,
think, and then,
yeah.
you know, you don't have a friend that maybe you could have some of those kids sit at while you go run the errands, maybe for both households. You
Right,
know what I mean?
right.
You just have to be a little bit smarter nowadays. You can't go back to the original if you want to make sure that you're 100% safe.
Well, see, what really killed me was when, and I can tell you, you know, you asked me before, but I can tell you when I really, you know, what was that, bird flu, not too long
the
ago,
swine
and
flu,
swine flu and
yeah.
everything, and you would watch the pictures on, see the pictures online, and you would see it on TV, and you'd see in China, everyone with a mask on.
Yeah.
And in the United States, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
And last month when I went down to Atlanta, it was like a ghost town. You know, even today, it's a ghost town, and everyone had on masks, and I was like, oh wow, this is kind of
this is
like
real.
Yeah, this is like I
yeah.
mean, everyone. I went into Tosh.
Yep.
Everyone coming in there has on a mask.
Yeah.
Everyone coming in and out, and it's like
I mean, here's my thing with the mask, right? So, I do traveling. I mean, even here, I went across several states. So it's like, if I'm wearing a mask, I'm keeping my stuff with me.
Right.
And if you're keeping a mask on you, you're keeping your stuff with you.
right.
So if both of us are keeping our stuff away from each other, then we should be good. You know, the 6-foot distancing, that works too.
Right.
You're not breathing or spitting on each other.
Where did
or
they come
anything.
up with 6 feet though? Where did the 6
I guess
feet
at
come
5
from?
foot it didn't work out. Somewhere somebody was like, not 3,
6 feet.
4. It just 6 we're solid. But I mean, it's still it's the companies can say do something. The government can say do something. But it's still on the person, right?
Actually, yes.
I mean, we have to make sure that we
Exactly.
have toilet paper and paper towels and hand wash and hand sanitizers, and they give everybody masks. Like, we have to do that.
Right.
But it's still on the personal level. When you go home, if you're like, these guys are idiots, I ain't doing none of this, and then you have problems, right? I mean, we had to start instituting temperature checks every
right.
morning, right? I mean, it's just these safe checks that you put that becomes your new daily normal.
You know, I go to the grocery store when I have to. I make sure that I get everything I have to get.
Right.
So I can. Hey,
I'm not doing a
stocked
daily
up.
trip. I'm
Right.
not- yeah.
None of that. But some days I did find myself with cabin fever, but I still never got out of my car. I just
Oh, yeah.
rolled
Drive
around.
around.
Yeah, just drive around, and it's been a blessing because no traffic.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But then on Saturday, you just start seeing everybody come out.
Lowe's
And
and Home Depot.
Man.
Hats.
Hobby
They're
Lobby.
remodeling. I mean, they're this,
It's
that.
like, wow, you start seeing everybody start coming out, and I'm like,
I mean, we're really
what
going
are
to
you gonna
know if Georgia is a hot spot
right.
for the virus spread. just because of the way we act. So, I mean, literally when the government was like, hey, we're going to reopen, like literally 90% of the people were like, woohoo.
Yeah.
And the stores were packed, traffic's back, everybody's out doing stuff, except for the people who were like, no.
Let's just see how this
Yeah,
plays
and
out.
for the most part, I would say most of our company, we're that way. We're like, we're going to stay back. We're going to see what happens. But when we're driving home and you see all the stores packed with people and 90% not wearing masks and this, that, and the other, we're going to see how this plays out pretty quick.
Of course.
I'm hoping for all the best.
Right,
Believe me,
right.
I'm
Praying for the
not,
best.
because I'd love to get back to normal, but we will definitely see in Atlanta.
But it's kind of like at the same time, what is normal? Because it's what do you do? And I think for a lot of people doing this, they've had a time to really, especially like for the dads that work 12, 13 hours a day,
Oh, yeah.
that are able to sit home with their kids and actually see what the moms go through. And what's been killing me is like the homework, having my son, and it's like, he's like, yeah, Dad, I need help with this. And I look at him like, I don't know what that is. Like, I really gotta sit back and look. Sit back. So I think for that, and actually, because I've always said in America, we get away from the family.
Yeah.
At 18, we put our kids out, tell them, hey, go
Good
figure
luck.
it out.
Yeah.
If you need some help, I'll be there, but I really don't want you back. You know what I mean? And we only get together on holidays. You only get to see your extended family on holidays and things. Funerals. And, so I think this right here is bringing us a lot together as far as the family and having an appreciation for your neighbor and learning that, your neighbor is your brother and going back into actually traditions.
I agree with
You
that.
know
I've
what
seen
I
that a
mean?
lot.
And the family being able to sit down together and actually eat together and break bread together. Because out of every bad thing, you have to see the silver lining and you have to take the good with it. So,
we actually saw kids in our neighborhood that literally we didn't even know existed.
Exactly.
And it wasn't a couple. It was like, wow, we have like 100 kids in our neighborhood. And they were all just playing in their yards, doing their own separate things. So it wasn't like we had mobs running through the neighborhood or anything. But they were just kids being kids, finally.
Right. And they even tired of the video games. They're like, I need to get out of the house,
Well, I think the other side was the parents were just like, you need to go outside and do something.
Right. But it's so you've got that. And when I say it's like, so, what's normal, I think this is a time for us to try to get back to what, the America used to be with the family values, sitting down together.
Pre-90s.
Yeah. It's like, we're actually helping one another. And it's not just about you see everything because, I think for a lot of us also, it's not really impactful because it hasn't happened to someone that you know or that is close to you.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of the stories of people coming out, it's like their mom got it.
Oh, yeah.
And, next thing you know, she passed away. And that's got to be like, so for that person and that family going through that, they're absolutely like social distancing,
Oh, they're taking it serious.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's in there.
And I talked to my nephew on a side note, and, one thing I haven't heard in the news, but I'm hearing a lot, is like even in the prison system. It's
rampant.
It's
like the old folks' home. Once it gets in there, it just spreads like
that's
wildfire.
because everyone is so close together. Everything, and they're there together 24 hours a day.
Oh, yeah.
And he was telling me,
Well,
he was like,
the way it's going to change the school systems and just the way that we've just been overpopulating everything.
Right.
It should change us for the good. There is some benefits that's going to come out of this on the other side.
and that's the one thing these kids got to go back to school. When they're talking about, they don't know if things are going to kick back up, and friend, I hear it a lot on the sports side. It's we don't know if we're going to have sports, if we're going to have football, and it's like, man, and then I'm thinking in the back of my head was like, so what do you mean the kids aren't going back to school?
Well,
because
you're saying that. I heard one of the governors, and he did. Well, actually, one was New York and one was Louisiana. Those are the two that I was watching. Several others. Those are the only two that I really kept up with. And they were saying it's three things that have to happen before we get back to normal. Kids got to go back to school, because if not, there's no daycares moving. There's no place for these kids to go. So
Right.
how are the parents going to leave the house if they're going to leave kids at home? They can't do that. So the daycare school systems all have to come online. Second thing is the non-essential to essential. All the businesses have to open back
Right.
up, right? Next step is transportation. They were like, if public transportation doesn't open back up, and all of a sudden, now the kids are gone, business is open, but I don't have a way to get there. We all can't take Uber every day,
Right,
you know,
right.
so the public transportation has to open. So when you start thinking of those things, all of them kind of happen at the exact same time. So I don't say I hate that Georgia was the experiment. I might actually be happy that Georgia was the experiment because at least we get to see firsthand what happens when the gates are opened again.
Well, when you have one of the fastest growing cities in America, and you have people coming from everywhere, and I would think, you know, the international airport and everything being down
yeah.
here, it's like, okay, let's see. And it's not, if it were New York City, I would say you're total idiots because of everybody's on
Because
top
the
of
numbers
each
are
other.
high,
Right,
population
right.
density.
But and even with Atlanta being as big as it is, it's or as populous as it is. Let's put it like that. As populous as it is,
We're
it's
spread out in the
right.
boroughs.
We're not on top of each other like that. You know, it's more of a metropolitan area.
Yeah.
To where, you know, so I could see that. But I can tell you this. I really do think the guys who started Grubhub and DoorDash are the ones who started this crap.
Yeah.
They've been making
And the
that
toilet
kill-
paper makers.
Yeah, they've been killing it. They've been killing it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I first heard of DoorDash. I'm not even sure, but a while ago, but I've never used the service ever.
Yeah.
I'm not buying McDonald's through DoorDash. It's already nasty enough when you get it from there to the house.
Yeah.
But now I got a cheeseburger that I potentially have to heat up. Oh, no
Yeah.
way. And I mean, these guys are making a killing
Oh,
during
yeah.
this time. And, you know, it's like, okay, that's good. But it's like, where'd you guys come from? You know, it's like.
Well, think about Amazon. I mean, I heard
Yeah.
Amazon was making like 10,000 a second because everybody's ordering stuff online. They don't want to go out. They don't want to go to
Right.
the stores. I mean, there's definitely some front winners in
Oh,
this.
Prime has been hurting. I've tried to order some from Prime. They say that it's getting better. I think you even told me that.
Yeah, well, they
they've been
actually
getting better.
re-engineered their website to make people buy less.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like they wouldn't suggest items. They wouldn't do this. They wouldn't do. I mean, that's crazy when a company has to say, slow it down.
Right.
Right? It's that big of a behemoth. You're going to shut down the nation. Nobody has any money. For 2 weeks, you basically have your last check, right? So in 2 weeks, that check's gone. And now all of a sudden, what are you going to do?
Hit the
Well,
grocery store.
whenever your kids need something, your wife needs something, you have no money, there's no money in your account, you're going to start robbing stuff. Like the economy is
That's
just going
what-
to deteriorate, right? So they sent $1,200. Surprisingly,
out.
somehow the government pulled that off,
Right.
which, I mean, you know, your IRS checks are usually a month behind when
Right.
they do all that. So how they did that, I'm amazed, but they did it. So most people got their money. And then on the unemployment side, you know, you got ridiculous numbers, and
Right.
they're actually processing most of those within a reasonable amount of time. I mean, of course, you know, there's probably several million who are saying they ain't done nothing for me, but I mean, the other ones, they're actually doing it.
Yeah, I know everyone here who had to.
They got furloughed. They were taken care of.
furloughed, and they took care of.
Yeah.
You know, but being that our business has been booming since during
yeah.
and all of this, you know, it hasn't been that bad.
I mean, who would have thought that during a pandemic, a soap company would have ordered 26 pallets of fragrances? And literally, that's just one account and one order.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's-
it
and
has
that's-
been ridiculous.
And that's a blessing. And
Yeah.
you know, and for them also because they have to get the soap out there, so
Yeah.
we can, you know, so
yeah.
it's all been it's not saying that COVID-19 is, but
Right.
to be able to still
Be
be
able
able
to supply the chain.
right, and not experience too big of a hiccup.
Yeah.
And during this,
Everybody's
it's been-
safe.
Yeah,
We've had nobody sick. We've isolated everybody to keep it as safe as possible. We have been very blessed. All right, so we've gotten Robert's side on when the economy and the world is going to get back to normal, and we're hoping sooner than later. Coming from Georgia, AFI. Talk to you guys.